Hi, I'm Mark. This is part 2 in a series where I talk about tools that I wish I had at the start of my woodworking journey. There's 2 at the end that I think are going to be really interesting for you guys out there because I don't use them necessarily for the jobs that they were designed for. It's going to annoy a few people. Stick around. Onwards with tool 1. First on our list is one that is always being underestimated. This, no matter what brand you use, this is super glue. You might want to call it CA glue if you want to sound really professional. But I call it super glue. And it has a multitude of tasks in the workshop. If you haven't got this in your workshop, then it means one of 2 things. Either you don't make many mistakes, fantastic, or you don't know of how many uses this has. Any small mistake that you make, or number of small mistakes if it's me, during a build, this will get you out of trouble. It dries quicker than wood glue, and it's easier to get into tighter spots, and tear out, chip out, anything like that. This will get you out of trouble. Say you want to glue these 2 pieces of wood together, all you would do is put 2 pieces of blue tape, one on each side, super glue them together, and that will hold the pieces, but it's not permanent because you can then take it apart. I'm going to show you how glue comes in handy as a clamp. Sounds daft, doesn't it? This takes about an hour to start going off and then a lot longer than that to cure afterwards. This, a matter of minutes. As a combination, you can put 2 pieces of wood together. This will temporarily hold them while this cures. I'll show you. Your wood glue there has gone across approximately 80% of it. Next up, couple of dabs of super glue on the corners. So I put a dab of super glue here, dab of super glue there. Then you can push the joint together. So hold that for 2 minutes. Super glue will go off, it'll hold the 2 pieces together, and then the wood glue will do its thing. Next up, what have we got? Blue tape. Such a simple thing that until you've got it in your workshop, you won't realise how many uses it has. Imagine you've just made yourself a lovely cabinet or a shelf and you've done it with plywood and you've got to get the edge grain hidden. You've got a nice piece of hardwood. Now, you've glued it. You don't really want to be putting clamps all the way along it because the chances are it's bigger than this. Well, there is an easy solution. Hold it over the top. As you pull it down, stretch it a little bit. And that is now squeezing the hardwood down onto the plywood and it will glue on the edge band. That is one of the biggest uses I have for it. Anybody who's worked with wood, especially plywood, knows that if you get a tear out like that, it's a real pain for moving on with your work if you do it with wood glue. What I'm going to suggest is pop a bit of super glue in there, pop your blue tape on, stretch it round the corner. 2 minutes time, that plywood's back to working exactly how you want it to, and you won't see the chip out that you've done, as long as you keep the piece. Anybody who's got a circular saw or a jigsaw knows that because of the rotation of the blade or because of the way the saw blade comes up through the wood, it's really easy to tear a line across the top of the veneer. Blue tape. Draw your line out where you're going to do it, piece of blue tape across it. What that does is it holds the fibres together while the saw blade is trying to pull them apart. So it keeps them flat on the wood instead of fraying up, and you will get a much cleaner cut. Let's say you're drilling holes. Put a flag on your drill. Don't wrap it all the way around because it's a pain to come off, but measure where you need to take it to, pop that round. It'll flap, you'll see it, and when it gets flush with the wood, you'll see that it's at the right depth and you can stop drilling. Let's say you want to put a band around this of some description, you want to veneer it. If you can't measure it with your straight tape measure, take a piece of blue tape, spin it around it, cut it off at the right point so that it's covered the entire circumference, take it off. That is the length of the circumference of what you're trying to measure. Pop that down on the piece of veneer or whatever you want to put around it and cut the length correctly. Let's say you want to make mitre joints and you're doing a box. Turn the boards over so that the opening of the mitre is downwards. Get a straight edge, push them up against it. Now with your blue tape, you're going to use this as a clamp. Depending on the depth of the box, use 1 piece, use 2 pieces, and then when you close the box, that's going to hold it tight together while the glue cures. The other place where blue tape is going to help you is on the inside of the joint. Piece along that side, piece along the other side. So now, when you close that joint and the glue's in there, any squeeze out goes on the blue tape. That blue tape holds it together. Do all 4 of the joints like that, and you don't have to fumble around with clamps on it. Just let the glue do its job. Obviously, none of this incorporates all of the traditional uses for painter's tape, covering, marking, all of these things. is something that you will always need in your workshop. Now, number 3, we've done the painter's tape, we've done the super glue. The next thing you need is the activator can. So remember how we did that mitre joint earlier? Well, I'm going to show you a better way. Back with the wood glue, we're still going to put 80% across the middle. So we're going to put that on there because that is the lasting strength. Then what we're going to do is put plenty of super glue on the 2 ends in the corners, as we did before. This time though, we're going to take our clever activator and spray it on the piece that we haven't put the glue on. So when that touches with the super glue, it makes an instant bond and glues my fingers to the joint. I'm just kidding. It makes an instant bond so that the super glue will hold together while the wood glue cures. And vitally, you don't have to wait that pesky 2 minutes while it's happening. My favourite use for this is actually for planing. Let's say this piece of wood needs a really good layer taken off it with the plane. You haven't got your bench jogs, you just want to attach it straight to your bench. You don't want to glue it permanently because that's going to cause you more problems. Blue tape first, a couple of pieces on the wood, line them up with a couple of pieces on your workbench. So CA glue on one side, activator on the other, pop it down with a bit of pressure. And look at that. You can feel my whole workbench moving as I try to pull that off. Don't worry. Once you're done, it's like you've never glued it there in the first place. It does feel like it's for people that are impatient, but I promise you, if you get this with your super glue and your blue tape, you will understand exactly why they're in this part of the video. I'm stepping in dangerous ground right now when I enter into this debate. What is the best bottle to put your glue in? I bought my glue like this at the start. I have no affiliation with Gorilla Glue. My other recommendation is full of Titebond. Whatever works for you, both of them have done a brilliant job for me. What I do have an issue with is this big bottle. Not only is this glued shut, it's a pop open, pop closed lid, which constantly is getting jammed, but also it's when you're trying to shake down what's in the bottom half, because it's so big and it's such a big bottle to squeeze, it starts to get a little bit of repetitive strain on your arm. So for me, this wasn't cutting it. I had a look at some recommendations and I got one of these, a glue bot. You can get a small one, you get a big one. I went for the big one. For me, the most important thing was the cap, the fact that it's attached. People moan that you lose them, but it's attached. Just don't cut it off. And then the spares. You get 2 lids, you get some nozzles, so if you cut it too big, if it gets jammed, if it doesn't work, whatever reason, you can just switch it out, throw it away, carry on. Put the lid back on, you get a spare one of those as well. The very best part of it, 1, the width. Squeezing it is so easy, but 2, you don't have to tip the bottle. Because of the design, you squeeze here, it literally comes up. So if you're gluing a piece of wood here, you don't need to stand like this, stand like this. There are maybe 1 or 2 drawbacks. When you're gluing, if you let go of the lid, it's there dangling on your work. I can't say anything else bad about it. Some people use ketchup bottles, and I think that would be a great addition. I really do like that. Number 5, sticking with the gluing. For 2 years, these were my 5 glue spreaders, which is okay for a small project, but if you're going to be doing bigger coverage, this isn't going to cut it. And as fun as it is to peel the glue off your fingers at the end of the day, it does get in the way when you're doing everything else after the glue up before you finish in your workshop. That's what I've got. On one end, you've got a silicone brush. Glue doesn't stick to that properly. And on the other end, a little spatula of sorts for finer work. It is one of the best things that I added down in the workshop. I bought 2, they're about £5 each. If you don't buy anything else today from the back of this video, that for £5 is a seriously good buy. The one thing as woodworkers we need to make our peace with is that there are going to be certain jobs that are very repetitive. One of the things, if you're making larger pieces, that you're going to have to get used to is popping in screws. If, like me, you just have the one drill, that's a lot of changing of components. I'll show you. So, pilot drill in, drill it, take it out, pop in your countersink bit, drill it, take it out, pop in your crosshead bit, drill it, take it out. Now, who's got time to do all of that? And that's one hole. If you're doing cabinetry, anything with repeat holes, that's going to take you a long time. My first step of progression was to get my hands on one of these. This has the pilot drill and countersink bit joined in. These are brilliant. Straight away, you're saving yourself time. The next stage is that I upgraded the crosshead piece. I upgraded the crosshead piece to this. Doesn't look like much, does it? But what this red bit is a magnet. So not only does the top of it stop you driving the screw too deep into the now countersunk hole, it also holds the screw in place. So all you have to do is pop the screw on there, free up this hand, and drive it in. If you were to buy these two, that will serve you very nicely in anything you're going to want to build at the hobby level. But if you're going to take it further and start making more pieces, you're going to need one of these. I didn't have one at the start, so for approximately a year and a half, 2 years, I didn't use this. I just used the drill for everything. It's fine. I'm not saying run out, buy one of these really expensive bits of kit, all the batteries, all the chargers. But if you do want to upgrade your woodworking and make your life easier, more efficient, this is the way to go. And I'm going to show you why. Let's put this to the test, head to head, in a timed run. How I started, how I do it now. I'm going to time it and see if you guys can beat it. Pop in the comments if you've got another quicker way of doing it than this. For the first test, we've got the pilot drill in the drill. We start with 1 in each drill every time. 16. Drill's ready, impact driver's ready. Go. 6 seconds. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think this is going to change your life. I'm not saying that buying an impact driver is going to mean you're suddenly a far better woodworker, but it is going to make the job more enjoyable. As a little bonus, grab this, it's magnetic, use it to get your screws out. Save stabbing your fingers on all the screws. I think we're up to number 7. And this is a nice sharp pencil. This is not number 7. I'm just going to take this speed square to help me demonstrate, and this block of Sapel. I've zoomed you in nice and close so you can see this, and I'm going to do markings with this, the pencil, and then I'm going to take what I recommend for you to use and see the difference. So let's say you want to put a cut line and you want it to be down there. I'm guessing that that line is about 1 millimeter wide. So let me show you what I think is the upgrade on the pencil. And this is what I recommend. Flat on one side, beveled on the other. It's a marking knife. You put the speed square up against it, flat edge of the knife along the square, and then you make a very gentle line. Not one big, thick, heavy cut, just lots and lots of smaller cuts, hearing those fibres get cut as we go. Check out the difference there. That is a crisp, well, less than 1/2 mil line, and that is a millimeter thick line. The other thing with this is you could put a chisel in that and use it as a knife wall. This, you maybe have to go over it again with a knife. If you get used to using a marking knife, your work will go up tenfold straight away. Of course, a pencil is going to work fine marking off cabinetry, etc. This is more for finer work, but it is definitely worth getting. It's not expensive, and it has revolutionised how I mark hardwood when I'm making my jewellery boxes and ring boxes, etc. Number 8 and 9, I am really risking the wrath of the woodworking community here, in my opinion. It's not going to make me popular because these tools already have a task. You have just seen my nice, clean, sharp marking knife. This one does not go anywhere near glue. What I didn't show you is this one, my old one. I bought it for a different purpose. Imagine, if you will, you are gluing up joints. A lot of squeeze out there. You could use a cloth. Option 2 is leave it and chisel it afterwards. Now I will do that if I've got space to get a chisel in there and not ruin my work. There's option 3. This fits in the corner really nicely and it scrapes the glue off like that. You just run the flat of the marking knife down the side and it cleans it up really nicely. A nice clean joint. I personally don't like using a wet cloth on it because I think it smears it as worse than this does. If you keep it nice and sharp, which this one isn't, you can really get a good scrape up the inside of that corner and you're not damaging the wood and you are clearing up most of the glue. Give it a shot. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, it's just a recommendation. It's just something I do. Now, what's going to cause even more fuss is the second one. Whether you're doing a small tabletop or like this, gluing boards together to make a chessboard, you will always get beading of glue coming up between them once you've put them in your sash clamps and they've been clamped in place. Now there's different ways of getting rid of the glue before you take a hand plane to it or put it through your thicknesser or your drum sander, for instance. This is a paint scraper, if you like. What I found with this is you cannot get enough purchase to get rid of a lot of the glue squeeze out. So And this is where I will probably anger people. I ruined one of these, but I ruined it and I still get good use out of it. It is rubbish now as a card scraper. You will not get a good job on it because it is covered in glue. This is what I use it for. Let's say you've had these in the clamps for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and you've got tacky glue on it. What I do is I take my scraper and I just take off the tacky glue like that, wiping the excess on a cloth before it has a chance to absolutely go rock hard, and then it's one of these tools to get at it which isn't working very well. I hope that this comes across as a tip and not as a recommendation of get your best card scraper and use it for the job. It's one thing having recommended tools for your journey through woodworking. It's another thing knowing what to avoid. Check out this video. I'll see you on the next one.